Hello and welcome once again to Cityline. Mike Lonergan here, and we're glad you've joined us. We're going to have a very interesting program for you. The later segments of the show, I want you to be sure and stay tuned because we're all taxpayers, and we know down in Olympia they're talking about tax reform and reduction. Well, we have done some of that same thing here on the local level, and we're going to have the mayor on and our local tax man on to bring us up to date on that. So do stay tuned. And also some special tax incentives for a subject that's near to my heart, which is low-income housing. All coming up later in the program. But to start with, in addition to being taxpayers, most of us are motorists as well, and we have the city's Transportation Committee here today for an update. We want to welcome, first of all, Brad Brailsford. Brad is a member of the committee and hasn't been on the program before.
That's true. Hello, Mike. Nice
to have you here. How long have you been on the committee, by the way?
Actually, I'm a relative newcomer, just since July of last year.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome. And back by popular demand, the chair of the committee, Richard Wood, is here. You did give us a little preview of your committee a few months ago.
That's right.
And are you still looking for members for the committee, or are you pretty well filled out now?
Brad filled the last vacant position, so we're filled up. We have 9 members.
Okay. Looking for a few good men and women.
Well, we always like guests and visitors to our meetings.
Okay.
Too, so.
A huge subject, of course, transportation. The most immediate thing, I just drove a couple days ago. I didn't really have a reason to, but I just turned off and drove over the big new bridge across the tide flats and turned around and came back so I could say that I did it. I imagine a lot of people have been doing that.
Sure. What did you think?
Well, it's big, wide, massive, far in excess of the amount of traffic on it, at least right now. That's what I would say.
Well, I think it's going to pick up as more people get used to the idea, and as more people realize that it's now open. And a lot of them, after they take a trip like you did, will see how convenient and how nice it is. And I think in the future they're going to see more people. I don't think they've done a traffic count yet to see exactly where it's at, but I know they're planning to do that soon.
We do have employees down at the Mission who live in Northeast Tacoma and Federal Way, and they've said already it has reduced their travel time. It's much smoother and less stressful.
Sure. We actually reviewed that project on our last meeting. It came in under budget. That was good news.
There's several millions of extra dollars.
We talked about some restriping issues. There seems to be some confusion at the interchange near Pacific Avenue.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
I noticed that. There was a guy kind of trying to merge into the side of my car.
Well, exactly. I sort of saw the same thing, and we did talk about that, and the city is going to work on that.
Good.
There's always a few tweaks and fine-tuning that you have to do with a project of that size.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Well, we have viewers out in the county as well that watch Cityline, and let's talk about a real bottleneck. The Narrows Bridge. I mean, when it was called the Narrows Bridge, it wasn't because the bridge was narrow, but it's like a funnel now with traffic piled up on either side depending on the time of day.
Well, that's right, and that's an issue that we've talked about some at our committee, and we will continue to do in the future. There are a lot of options available as a solution, ranging from building a completely new bridge to second decking the existing bridge, putting light rail on the second deck or restricting it to HOV and express bus only, and a whole range of options in between. And we will be looking at that seriously in the future.
Sure. As citizens of the city of Tacoma, of course, we're looking at that issue just from the citizens' perspective, and that's the whole point of our committee. I know that in any case, any of those options are going to be very expensive, and most of them are controversial for some group of residents, either on this side or on the other side, and that's one of the reasons I think we haven't seen a solution sooner is because of those two factors.
You have to come to some kind of a consensus.
Right, and as a matter of fact, I know that there's going to be a series of meetings again coming up soon, I believe, that will be open to the public, that our committee's not necessarily involved with directly, but I know that it's going to come up soon.
Of course, it brings up the point that while you are a City of Tacoma Transportation Committee, as we become more regional. My wife goes to Olympia to work. Yours is heading north, and people are going every which way. It's a regional issue. It's not a city issue.
You're exactly right. Actually, it's a state issue in that case, the Narrows Bridge, and the solution will come as some sort of a partnership led by the state. So that's a very good point. And Tacoma, of course, is the hub or the center of Pierce County, and so you're right. The issues that face the city proper also have regional impact.
Now we have a massive issue here looming on the horizon. We had Deputy Mayor Paul Miller on just recently on Cityline to talk about the Regional Transit Authority, and it's still hard to grasp here that we're talking about many thousands of millions, billions of dollars for transportation here in the Puget Sound area, and that which is raised in Pierce County is to be spent in Pierce County. Now, the perspective I think that Councilman Miller has is that you can't and shouldn't just build enough roads for enough cars for everybody, that we really need to make a sea change here, a basic change in how people get from point A to point B.
Well, that's right. We're going to have to change our attitudes on transportation. We've got to get away from the single occupancy vehicle, and the Regional Transit Authority's issue passing is very encouraging. And there's going to be lots of changes coming, and including more bicycle access, commuter rail, light rail, as Mr. Miller explained, I'm sure, and it's very exciting.
Sure, I think it's a matter of providing more options for people. It's one thing to say fewer people should drive in single occupancy vehicles, but unless you provide an option, a solution to that, there's nothing anybody can do. So now the RTA really is going to solve a lot of the problems associated just with single occupancy vehicles. And the last time I think I was on your show was just prior to the RTA vote, and we weren't sure how it was going to go. And I'm very pleased that the folks in the Puget Sound region saw the importance of that and have decided to invest money in it. It is going to be very expensive over the next 10, 15 years, but we're going to get a lot back, and it's going to improve the quality of life in Tacoma and Pierce County and the Puget Sound region.
That's right, and it will be a cooperative effort between the Tri-County area and the different transportation agencies involved.
We're talking with Brad Brailsford and Richard Wood from the City of Tacoma's Transportation Committee, a volunteer group that talks about these very issues. And of course, as we get talking about these, everybody has an opinion. If there's a comment you want to get across to these gentlemen, you can give us a call, 591-7217. And if you're watching the live Wednesday show, we'll put it right on the air. Otherwise, we'll pass it on to them. 591-7217 is our number here at Cityline. The idea that, as you said, you can't simply state this in the negative. We need fewer cars on the road. How do you get around? Do either of you do anything besides get in your car and drive from one place to another?
Well, I use my bicycle a lot,
okay.
And I've been very encouraged by some of the city proposals for a 20-year bicycle plan. And I drive. I would love to be able to take a commuter train to work. That's going to happen in the fairly near future, but right now we don't have many options. But bicycle and automobile for me right now.
Sure.
And I'm looking forward to more options and multimodal cooperation. It's in our future.
And I largely am one of those single occupancy vehicle drivers. I work in Sumner, and I drive every day and I commute. But when the commuter rail goes in, I'll be able to hop on the bus at the Tacoma Dome and ride the commuter rail out to within a few blocks of my office in Sumner. And I plan to do that.
Of course, another aspect is working with Pierce Transit. A lot of people have said, well, I would take the bus if the bus left at exactly the time I needed to leave from exactly in front of my house, you know. But every step you take away from that, it seems like then there, you know, there's a fall off in the number of people who are willing to walk 3 blocks in the rain and wait 20 minutes for a bus.
Well, one of the aspects of the RTA is that the commuter rail will essentially free up some of the buses that Pierce Transit currently uses for things like the express run between Tacoma and Seattle. And by doing that, I know in talking with them, they hope to have more resources to focus on providing even better local service within the city of Tacoma or within Pierce County as a whole. And so that's one of the kind of a secondary benefit to the RTA is that our Pierce Transit will have more resources to spend right here in those sorts of issues or areas.
That's right. They'll enhance local service as well as express bus service, and they will feed multimodal stations. Access will be very easy for automobiles coming off the freeways. You'll be able to transfer to commuter rail or a bus in Seattle seamlessly. In other words, one ticket. One ticket gets you all the way through the system.
Ah, very interesting.
Very interesting. Very encouraging, yeah.
Now, of course, I work at the Mission downtown, and so as I talk with our neighbors and our guests at the Mission and so forth, we talk about just transportation circulation downtown. We kind of have a long, skinny downtown Tacoma,
Sure.
and parking is an issue already, and we have some hills and so forth that impede pedestrian traffic, particularly I think for older people. Have you talked about a free circulator bus downtown?
Boy, I know our committee, most of our committee members think that would be a wonderful idea, and I think that's something that we would support. We've talked about that, and the RTA does include electric light rail between the Tacoma Dome and along Pacific Avenue in downtown. And so whether or not it'd be free, I don't know, but that will be in some form part of the package. And I know we've talked about the idea of having some sort of a shuttle that goes all the way from the Tacoma Dome along Pacific Avenue, all the way out to Point Defiance, maybe along the waterfront.
Restaurants and parks.
Sure. And I mean, we sometimes have a great vision of what could be, but of course I think it always ends up coming down to money and how are you going to pay for it, who's going to pay for it, and at what cost. But I think our committee is supportive of that sort of
Very
thing.
supportive. We did talk about this at one point with Pierce Transit. We have quarterly meetings with Pierce Transit, and we discussed the possibility of mimicking Seattle, where they have a free bus zone in the downtown area.
Or some sort of a trolley like Seattle has the waterfront trolley. You know, I know some of our members think that transit agencies should look beyond just buses and start looking at some of those other maybe non-traditional, or in that case traditional forms of transportation, especially with all of the things that are happening downtown with the museums and the UW campus and the other great things. And so
we will have a light rail loop in the next 5 to 7 years from the Tacoma Dome station through downtown. It's not clear yet if it's going to be one line down Pacific Avenue and back, or a loop down Pacific and back down Commerce, but at some point there will be some transportation feeding the Tacoma Dome station under construction at this time. And so there you go. There's a possibility right there.
My friend Jim Merritt drew a picture for me the other day on the back of a placemat. His idea for gondolas going up and down the hills of
well,
downtown.
there you go. That's the sort of idea that our committee is interested in.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, you have to think of those kind of different ideas, and in some cases they might be appropriate. I know they use those in Europe and other places. So
certainly would make us distinctive, I guess. If San Francisco is the cable car town, we would have the overhead.
Oh, there you go.
Well, there's, of course, many good ideas, but what you have to do is prioritize. The city has it's a 6-year plan, isn't it, where they look out and they say, this is what we can do this year and this is what we can do next year?
Correct, and our committee is involved in reviewing that every year and making recommendations. There's a certain formula for determining which projects will be included, and it includes all kinds of things like safety and cost, whether or not we have grant money or other sources of revenue to pay for it, whether there's citizen demand, you know, where there's been requests. And so that's one of the major responsibilities that our committee has, is for that citizen input into that plan.
That's right, and incidentally, we do encourage citizens to participate in our meetings and sit in. In fact, that's how I became interested in the first place. They had invited me down to give a speech on Amtrak. I'm an Amtrak employee, and after that was done, I sat in through the rest of the meeting and found the other issues very interesting. And subsequently came back a few more times, and when the position became available, I applied for it and was appointed last July. So it's
And so you bring a certain kind of expertise too, because
well,
you
a
have
certain kind,
you
yes,
work
coming
in the
from
railroad.
that angle, yeah.
And so we'd love to have additional citizen input. That 6-year plan includes everything from where the new stoplights are going to go in to where some of the new sidewalks are going to be built, or even new roads in some cases. And so we look at all of that.
So people need to speak up and let their
I think so,
views be
sure.
You bet.
Okay, so it's the second Thursday of every month
Correct?
at the Municipal Building on Market Street. And at what time?
5:30 p.m.
5:30. Well, okay, we'll see you there.
All right.
Want to thank you very much, Richard Wood, the chair of the Transportation Committee,
you.
and Brad Brailsford, new member of that committee. And you stay where you are. As promised, we're going to roll back your taxes here next on Cityline.